Welcome to the second part of this video, Aerotropolis, Evictions, Ecocide and Loss of Farmland, focusing on the damaging impacts on people and the environment arising from allocation of large sites for Aerotropolis projects and a preference for greenfield, i.e. undeveloped land. An aerotropolis can be loosely defined as an airport adjacent to or surrounded by commercial and/or industrial development. To a varying extent, this development is integrated with and interdependent with airport operations. Evictions for aerotropolises can be large-scale, displacing entire communities, and many residents lose their farming and fishing livelihoods. There are many instances of human rights violations, inadequate compensation and rehabilitation, forced eviction, and repression. Ecocide means destruction of ecosystems, such as large tracts of farmland, forests and wetlands. Coastal ecosystems are also impacted, including fisheries and mangroves. Frequently, hydrological systems are disrupted over large areas way beyond the perimeter. An aerotropolis can also be referred to as an airport city, an air city, aero city, sky city, and in one instance in this video, an airport employment growth district. This two-part video covers a lot of ground, 28 Aerotropolis projects around the world at various stages of development. In many countries, aerotropolises are among the largest, highest priority, biggest budget megaprojects being pushed by government and corporations. Since the COVID pandemic, air traffic has plummeted, yet Aerotropolis planning and construction continues. Indeed, many projects have been expedited. In the video description, you'll find a link to a comprehensive list of references for all the information sources in the video, including photos and graphics. I'll start with plans for a major new airport in central Poland. The Central Transportation Port, or CPK, has also been known as other names such as Central Polish Airport, Solidarność Airport, i.e. Solidarity Airport. The project has been planned for many years and debated since 2006. The design firm's graphic renderings shown on the right depict a major airport in the midst of farmland. This map was commissioned in 2008. I'll outline the two areas identified as possible suitable locations in the Baranou district. The government approved the airport plan in November 2017. The airport project evolved, including the proposed boundary, and I've overlaid a subsequent map from the 2019 on the proposed site. By this stage, the airport project had expanded to include an adjoining airport city with facilities such as hotels and showrooms on a 3,000-hectare site. The airport and airport city being a key component of and taking up about half the land area of a multimodal transportation hub, integrating air, road and rail infrastructure. It's the biggest infrastructure in the history of Poland, and the total site area is about 60 square kilometres. I'll digitise the boundary to view the affected area. The site consists of villages and farmland with many small parcels of cultivated land. Approximately 18 villages are under threat from the airport. This is a photo of a typical farming landscape in the area, and some stills from a video in which it was highlighted that the land includes some of the best farmland in the region, producing a lot of the vegetables consumed in Warsaw. New legislation gave the government preemptive powers over land development decisions, which, in effect, makes provision for automatic expropriation of land. Residents said they were not officially informed about the project plans, including the terms for acquiring their land. At a protest meeting against the new airport in May 2018, some of the placards translated read, "We will lose our livelihoods and we will not give away our property." And the signs at a protest with tractors say, "No airport in Baranou," and agriculture, not airport. A local referendum was held in June 2018, in which residents voted overwhelmingly against the project at 88.2%. They also rejected the government's proposed settlement terms for land acquisition. And there was scepticism over the airport's traffic projections of 100 million passengers per annum, which would make it one of the busiest airports in the world, and concerns about competition with established regional airports, which have been built using large amounts of public funds, including from the European Union. Moving forward to March 2021, a banner in Baranal says, "Not for CPK," opposing the government having preemptive rights to land for the airport. The same message is written in a cornfield. Airport opponents warn that CPK could eat up billions of euros, and is all the more absurd considering the impact of the COVID pandemic on the aviation sector. In the UK, Manchester Airport City is a small aerotropolis by global standards, but the biggest construction project in the UK since the London Olympics of 2012. Development is taking place on multiple sites, and renderings of typical precast concrete Aerotropolis hotels and offices are shown on the right. I'll focus on one of the development sites, which I'll highlight, the Global Logistics Hub, which has subsequently renamed the World Logistics Hub. And here is a graphic rendering which shows development of several logistics buildings on the greenfield site. Shown here is the northern portion of the World Logistics Hub site in 2013. The land was formerly designated as Greenbelt, a buffer zone to contain urbanisation, preventing sprawl and protecting green space. And the site consisted of farmland, woodlands, including 12 ponds, some of which hosted an endangered newt species. Here's a photo of part of the site and promotion for the Safe Sunbank Wildlife Walk, opposing plans for the World Logistics Hub. On the day of the Wildlife Walk, people gathered outside Sunbank Farm. But moving forward to May 2014, this photo shows oak trees were being felled and farmland being bulldozed. Moving on to the next slide, viewing changes at the site between 2013 and 2018, as well as construction in the World Logistics Hub area. On the bottom right, a 1,473 space car park emerges. So now we see the World Logistics Hub site in 2018, and I'll outline an Amazon warehouse and a DHL logistics facility, both located within what is termed an enterprise zone and therefore eligible for subsidies, including a business rate discount of up to £275,000. A photo from 2017 of the Amazon and DHL facilities highlights the prime development land that was still available. Another development, small by global standards, but quite a large development site for the UK, is the proposed airport City Gatwick, northeast of Gatwick Airport. I'll outline the site. It's also known as Horley Business Park, a proposed development comprising business space, commercial buildings and leisure facilities, taking up approximately 83 hectares of green space, which includes farmland and woodland. Zooming in to view the site, in 2016, a campaign group was formed called Keep Horley Green, opposing loss of green space, farmland, woodland, and which provides a wildlife habitat and serves as a buffer separating Horley from the noise and pollution generated at Gatwick Airport. There were concerns that paving over such a large area of floodplain would increase the flood risk for surrounding areas, and a petition against the business park garnered 4,000 signatures. Here's a photo of another protest in 2018. At this time, a consultation was criticised as a tick box exercise. Many local people thought that their views had not been taken into account. And there was widespread opposition to loss of what is, for many residents, the only substantial area of green space that is accessible to them. At the end of November 2020, residents were shocked when 6 acres of woodland within the site were hacked down near Meadowcroft House, which I'll highlight, on private land earmarked for the business park, even though business park plans had still not been approved. Local people were alerted by the noise of chainsaws, and here are a couple of photos of the aftermath. The woodland that was hacked down had hosted many wildlife species, including many types of birds such as owls. The site of the new Mexico City Airport, seen here in 2006, is the drained Texcoco lake bed. Land for the airport was grabbed over a 17-year period, with residents' traditional tenure rights being removed. 3 municipalities were affected. One of these is Atenco, and here is a photo of Atenco residents' protest march against construction of the airport in August 2018. A map shows the 3 areas of Ejido farmland, containing a mix of individually owned parcels of land and communal areas, which are seized by the government for the airport, which has a long history of repression and state violence against people opposing the airport. Most seriously, in May 2006, during a police operation aiming to break up resistance against the airport, several people were killed and injured, 200 people were jailed, and 27 women were raped during detention. 12 people were imprisoned until the Supreme Court ordered their release in 2010. The airport was Mexico's biggest megaproject, an airport and an adjacent industrial and commercial zone called Aerotropolis. Phase 1 plans, including a shopping mall, hotels, industrial park, high-end housing, a golf course, and a free trade zone. The airport was expected to worsen water shortages in Mexico City, estimated, when operational, to consume over 23 million cubic meters of water annually. A coalition of civil society organisations and artists instigated a campaign to save Texcoco Lake. It's called I Prefer the Lake, contrasting the airport, with the red X being the iconic terminal building, with the lake. And the campaign in particular highlighted the impact on birds. It was estimated that up to 250 species were being affected. Construction of terminal foundations, shown in this photo from May 2018, was a gigantic operation attempting to stabilise the marshy site by covering it with a layer of rock and installing a complex drainage system. In October 2018, the airport was cancelled after a referendum in which 70% voted in favour of halting the project. Going forward in time to view the site in May 2019, the vivid red colour of parts of the airport construction site looks unreal. And while satellite imagery processing can enhance coloration, the site is indeed a distinctive red shade. Quarrying and levelling hills, in many instances illegally, extracting material to prepare the site for construction works, used vast amounts of tesontal, a volcanic rock that is bright red in colour. The X shape at the bottom left of the satellite image is the abandoned terminal. More detail is shown in this photo. It's a marked contrast with the artist's renderings of gleaming glass and steel. The $13 billion futuristic fantasy turned out to be a mothballed megaproject. But cancellation of the airport did not bring an end to negative socio-environmental impacts. Roadworks continued, along with land grabbing, destruction of homes, and harassment of people resisting development projects. Cancellation of New Mexico City Airport was closely followed by fast-paced development of another mega project just 20 kilometers away. Expansion of Santa Lucia military airbase, including 2 new runways. A project map is on the left, and on the right are photos of the surrounding landscape and preparation of land for runway construction in October 2019. Like New Mexico City Airport, this airport project also triggered socio-environmental conflict. I'll overlay the map on the site, which in this map indicates a site of approximately 23.2 square kilometres. The actual site is even larger, approximately 30 square kilometres, and development is underway on a larger area on farmland adjoining the airport site. And there are reports of a larger total site area of over 36 square kilometres to accommodate an airport city. An airport plus complementary infrastructure, namely shopping malls, hotels, banks, casinos, and parking for 5,500 cars. The airport project accelerates urbanisation of agricultural land beyond the site perimeter without due planning process and consultation, and triggering socio-environmental conflict due to failure to recognise the rights of affected people. I'll digitise the indicated boundary to show the established airbase and the development site in May 2016. According to the environmental impact assessment, the airport will require 1.58 million gallons of water per day, putting pressure on water supplies. Already, the aquifer underneath the site is depleted, and communities north of the site are already suffering water shortages. There is even a plan for a 60-kilometre aqueduct to carry water from the Mesquite Valley. A photo from May 2019 shows when residents were calling for higher payment from the federal government for acquisition of agedal lands for expansion of the airport site. Then, at a public hearing on June 2019, rejection of the airport project was almost unanimous. Attendees expressed concerns over water issues, expropriation of agricultural land, damage to flora and fauna, and loss of archaeological heritage, along with what were thought to be unrealistic and inaccurate environmental impact assessments. And there was particular alarm over removal of over 5,000 trees from the site of many species, including white cedar. A photo from October 2019 shows machinery on the site, and construction has continued during the COVID pandemic. Impacts on archaeological heritage hit the headlines in May 2020, when the remains of over 60 mammoths, more than 35,000 years old, were discovered beneath the airport construction site, along with the remains of bison, horses, camels, and tombs containing human bones. Authorities appear to place a higher value on the remains than the living communities and ecosystems being damaged by airport construction. The mammoth bones are being salvaged and will be displayed in the museum. The airport is such a high priority infrastructure project that in 2021, the federal government committed to quadrupling the construction budget, and the president said the government will end up paying about $9.4 billion. In June 2020, there was a sit-in protest in the construction area by residents accusing the government of failing to abide by commitments it had made, including payment for land and public works, such as improving drinking water supplies that had been promised. By January 2021, we can see extensive construction works. Extraction of stone from indigenous territory for airport construction, including from sacred sites, is another factor in opposition to the project. In June 2021, the Santa Lucia Airport site was extended further. The government expropriated over 109 hectares of land by decree without public consultation to the west of the construction site in the ejidos of Santiago Atocan. Another aerotropolis with impacts on hydrological systems is an early example. Northwest Florida Beaches Airport opened in 2010. It was the first major new US airport since Denver Airport, which opened in 1995. Northwest Florida Beaches Airport was built on wetlands in spite of 6 lawsuits from environmental organizations and a referendum in which 56% opposed the airport, even though the question was misleading, stating that there would be no cost to taxpayers. In fact, the airport actually cost taxpayers approximately $318 million from various federal, state, and local government sources. The airport is located in the midst of one of the most biodiverse habitats in the US, a haven for species such as black bears, red-cockaded woodpeckers, and the endangered gopher tortoise. 809 hectares of wetlands were destroyed for the airport, a gigantic slug of concrete which disrupted the hydrology of a large expanse of forested wetlands. During construction, uncontrolled mudflow accumulated in marshes, creeks, streams, fish beds, and the estuary, causing a steady decline in habitat and water quality. Problems with runoff polluting waterways with dirt and sediment continued into 2012. The seemingly irrational airport to nowhere, enveloped by pine forests and far from population centres, spurs development on the land surrounding it. The site plan is on the right, and I'll focus in on the key, which shows adjacent development areas. In 2011, Global Airport Cities magazine reported that an airport city was taking shape on 404 hectares of land. The Venture Crossings Enterprise Centre is being built in phases on land adjacent to Northwest Florida Beaches Airport. The first tenant, ITT Corp, a defence contractor, was supported by local and state incentives, including a property tax abatement. The graphic from the Venture Crossings website shows newer tenants, GKN Aerospace and Harris office and manufacturing facilities, and also promotes developable property available for tenants. In December 2019, a new construction project began. St. Joe Company, which donated the airport site and owns land around it, broke ground on a hotel next to the airport. In Jamaica, the planned Vernamfield Aerotropolis entails significant loss of farmland. In addition to the existing 809 hectare site, which is a disused aerodrome, the Aerotropolis would encompass a further 1,619 hectares of land. Some of this land is among the most fertile in Jamaica and has been used for sugarcane cultivation. In 2019, residents expressed fears of forcible expropriation of land and eviction and concerns that the stage was being set for a massive land grab. The Vernamfield Aerotropolis plan is freight-oriented. It's been described as a city centred on air cargo and envisaged as a component of an even larger megaproject complex, a multimodal logistics hub spanning a large swathe of the southeast coast of the island. In Canada, the Hamilton Aerotropolis project was the #1 priority in the City of Hamilton's 2005 Economic Development Strategy. Hamiltonians for Progressive Development listed 20 reasons to stop the project, including oil dependency, loss of 555 hectares of prime farmland, and inaccurate claims of a shortage of land for industrial development. At that time, the existing Airport Business Park was 85% vacant, and there was plenty of suitable brownfield, i.e. developed land that was available. Furthermore, infrastructure costs, including a road and sewage pipeline to service Hamilton Aerotropolis, were estimated at $353 million, far exceeding the projected tax revenue from the project over many years. In 2010, opponents submitted a 74-page report with 2,100 pages of supporting evidence. Yet Hamilton Aerotropolis, renamed the Airport Employment Growth District, or AEGD, was approved in 2013. Development stalled until 2019 when Petoni, a major property developer, broke ground on a 24,500 square metre warehouse. Also in Canada, in 1972, 18,600 acres of prime farmland in Pickering were expropriated for a third Toronto airport. This was one of the world's largest airport sites. The original movement against the airport was called People or Planes, and the photos of banners saying, "Paving over the best farmland is insane," "Plough don't pave," "Foodlands forever, airport never," and RIP, standing for Really Insane Project. The successor organisation opposing the airport was born in 2005, called Land Over Landings. A key report in 2018 called Then, Now, Next, 21st Century Reasons to Cancel Pickering Airport, emphasised the importance of conserving farmland for future food security and as a carbon sink, helping to mitigate climate change. The sign in a field reading "End the War on Farmland, Stop Mirabel 2" refers to Montreal Mirabel Airport. This airport was envisaged as a major hub, a new gateway to Canada. When Montreal Mirabel Airport opened in 1975, it was the largest in the world by surface area. But Montreal Mirabel Airport was a costly and embarrassing white elephant. The small number of passenger flights ceased entirely by 2004. Now Montreal Mirabel is a minor cargo airport. Persistence in resisting Pickering Airport paid off, as shown in the map on the top right of the screen. By 2015, over half of the land that had been allocated for the airport, the two green areas on the west of the site, outlined in the map, had been transferred to Rouge National Urban Park, which means natural areas and farms will be protected. Land Over Landings shifted its focus to saving the approximately 9,600 acres where the threat of an airport still looms, the red area shown on the map. And on the bottom right, the campaign sign in a field says, "We saved the West, now save the rest." In 2019, the Pickering Airport project was referred to as Toronto East Aerotropolis. The pro-airport side launched a massive marketing campaign funded by the public purse and developer dollars to sell the idea of a green aerotropolis. The main basis for the green aerotropolis claims was the inclusion of greenhouses and indoor vertical farms. Land Over Landings pointed out that heating and lighting makes indoor growing more carbon intensive than growing crops in fields, because unlike growing in soil, it does not provide carbon sequestration. And the Aerotropolis plan still entails paving over a large area of prime farmland. An event to promote the Toronto East Aerotropolis scheme was attended by prominent Aerotropolis proponent, Dr. John Casada. This slide was entitled "Creating a Toronto East Aerotropolis, the 21st Century Airport, Airport City and Aerotropolis, leveraging speed and connectivity for competitive advantage." The image is not specific to plans for an aerotropolis on Pickering farmland, nor of any existing aerotropolis. It's from a video published in 2011 outlining the generic features of a theoretical aerotropolis. with an airport at the core with standardised Aerotropolis components radiating outward. Quesada's presentation was entitled "A Toronto East Aerotropolis, Creating Regional Competitive Advantage," but there's nothing regional or particular to Pickering in this graphic either. It has been used for many years to promote the Aerotropolis concept around the world. Aerotropolis development around the airport could be a rationale for allocation of such a large land area. Quesada presented a list of reasons for his prediction that Toronto East Aerotropolis would be successful. At the top of this list is the large site. I'll quote directly. Ample land specifically reserved for a major commercial airport, along with substantial adjacent land for economic development. Local government support for the Aerotropolis continued when skies were almost empty due to the COVID pandemic. In October 2020, the City of Pickering held a symposium for realtors and developers promoting their POP projects, including an Aerotropolis on the Pickering Airport lands. The map at the top of the screen shows the location of Mattala Airport in southern Sri Lanka. On the map below, sites in this area which had been damaged by deforestation are shown in pink. In 2006, deforestation in the area where Mattala Airport was subsequently constructed was the worst in the country. Mattala is not just an airport. A project map from 2010, at that stage the project was referred to as Hambantota Airport, contains details of so-called Stage 2 development, namely commercial and industrial areas, a shopping complex, hotels, a golf course, factories, a marina and helipads. In this satellite image from July 2009, tracks are visible around the Mattala Airport site. The airport area allocated for the airport was 800 hectares and the total site area was 2,000 hectares. Space was set aside for an Aerotropolis containing duty-free shopping, hotels, tourism resorts and other facilities, for example, landscape gardens, industry and IT parks and real estate development. Mattala Airport is part of a plan for fast-track transformation of a rural forested area into a metropolis, comprising, in addition to the airport, a port, export processing zone and tourism facilities, all connected by highways. In 2010, 800 hectares of land were cleared from Mattala Airport. An aerial photo from March 2010 shows forest and scrub cleared for the runway and terminal. In August 2010, it was reported that large tracts of vegetation in the airport site had been set alight, causing, and I'll quote, a massacre of everything that moves. Animals including deer, snakes, frogs, pangolins and anteaters. The area cleared of vegetation by 2012 is shown here. Clearing land and fencing off the site had restricted the roaming habits of about 300 elephants, causing them to encroach on human settlements. Human-elephant conflict escalated in some instances, resulting in deaths of people and elephants. And a week before the airport was inaugurated, a person was killed by a wild elephant attack on the airport access road. Road network development is visible in the satellite image from February 2013. In March 2013, during preparations for opening the airport, a test flight ran into a flock of birds. And a week later, a plane collided with a flock of birds shortly after takeoff, leaving cracks on the windscreen. Such bird strikes, collisions between birds and aircraft, are a serious air safety issue as they can cause fatal air accidents. Bird strike risk is particularly concerning for Mattala Airport, as it is located under a major migratory route for thousands of birds of many species. Authorities attempted to scare away birds with flares and stun guns, removed food sources that attract them, and covered up their water sources. A petition against destruction of wildlife habitat for airport operations was launched, warning of the deadly impact on birds in the region and that elephants are more likely to enter villages and farms in search of food and water. Bird-related air safety incidents continued. In January 2014, a plane collided with 2 peacocks. Then in 2015, peacocks strayed onto the runway. Yet this peacock structure, erected on the airport access road, suggests that the airport has an affinity with bird life. Mattala Airport, an airport in elephant country, turned out to be a white elephant. It was designed to handle 1 million passengers per annum, but there were very few flights. The photo of the empty terminal with 12 check-in desks is from June 2018. The impacts of removing elephant habitat and migration routes continued. On the top right is a photo of when a baby elephant had to be rescued when it got stuck in a trench near the airport in 2017. And below is a photo from 2018 of another elephant that persisted in roaming on the airport access road. The potential impact on elephants is one of the concerns raised by Nijgadh Airport and Airport City. The proposed site south of Kathmandu in the lowland Terai region, measuring 8,000 hectares and claimed to be the largest in South Asia, is a migratory corridor for elephants and many other species. On the left, there is a widely circulated graphic rendering of Nijgadh Airport and an adjacent airport city. But there is ongoing uncertainty over the plans. In 2016, the tourism minister said the project would be developed in phases, beginning with a single runway airport facility with an accompanying airport city to be built at a later stage. There are varying reports from authorities regarding the land area to be allocated for the airport city, from half of the site, i.e. 4,000 hectares, or a smaller 600-hectare area. There are indications that the airport city component might be cancelled. In 2019, the National Concern and Coordination Committee carried out a field assessment and concluded that an airport city was unnecessary. Instead of building a whole new city, the nearby villages could be developed. And a subcommittee in the International Relations Committee also visited the site, and their report questioned the need for an airport city. On the right are 2 construction site signs. At the top, a sign from 2017 depicts the site situated between 2 rivers, and the more detailed graphic on the sign below is a preliminary concept sketch. Here we see the same airport construction site sign on the greenfield site in August 2020. Nijgadh Airport is Nepal's biggest ever infrastructure project. The total cost has been estimated at $6.7 billion, which is about a quarter of Nepal's GDP. The preliminary concept sketch shows an airport with 3 runways, 3 international terminals and 1 domestic terminal, with a fast track, a 4-lane mega highway running along the northern boundary. Most of the site, about 90%, is virgin forest. A map indicates the boundary of the proposed 8,000-hectare Nijgadh Airport site. The forest is home to many species, including 33 types of mammals and 300 types of birds. It is part of an unbroken chain of pristine forests connecting national parks in Nepal and India, which, as I mentioned, provides a crucial corridor for migratory mammals, elephants, tigers, cheetahs, rhino, deer, wildcats, and other species. An environmental impact assessment estimated that the total project would entail felling about 2.4 million trees. Some airport opponents suspect that profits from logging the forest could be one of the motivations for the project, as depicted in this cartoon. The forest is predominantly sal trees or Sharia robusta, a type of hardwood that would fetch a high value in timber markets. A petition by the Save Nijgadh campaign calls upon Nepal's partners, including the World Bank, USAID, and the Worldwide Fund for Nature, to demonstrate accountability and act to help save the forest. Between stacks of felled timber are shown Nepal banknotes that have images of 3 iconic species at risk from the airport: tigers, elephants, and rhinos, folded to make paper planes. Here are some photos from protests against felling forests for Nijgadh Airport taking place in Kathmandu in 2019. On the left, people, some dressed as trees, demonstrating in front of the Swiss embassy, asking Zurich airports, at that time named as concessionaire, not to be involved in the project, with placards saying things like "Save Nijgadh," "Warning nature at risk," and "Climate justice for Nijgadh forest, not at the cost of 2.4 million trees." On the top right is a protest by a large number of children and youths calling for the airport plan to be scrapped. The largest sign challenges the legality of the project on several grounds, including against Article 30 of the Constitution, being against sections of the Forest and Environmental Acts, and a violation of the precautionary principle. Signs at a protest shown at the photo on the bottom right say "Save the forest" and "Chur is the lung," the airport site being in the foothills of the Chur mountain range. Looking again at the map of the boundary of the proposed Nijgadh Airport site, the 2 rivers coursing around the forest area allocated for the airport are Pasha River on the western boundary and Bakia to the east. These rivers are critical for about 400 fisheries, 3,900 irrigation channels for farmland, and about 200 aquifers. Already there are concerns that the region's underground water is becoming depleted, and disruption of rivers and removal of vegetation that recharges groundwater could cause water resources in surrounding areas to dry up. The area is also prone to heavy rainfall, and replacement of absorbent plants and soil with an impermeable expanse of concrete could cause flooding downstream. Indeed, the airport itself could be susceptible to flooding. In the middle of the forest, there are 3 settlements facing displacement for Nijgadh Airport. The settlements are home to about 8,000 people living in 1,500 households. The largest settlement within the airport site is Nijgadh, home to 7,500 people. Residents never received the official deeds for the land that they had been promised by the government. They have been treated like squatters, as if they have no rights to reside on the land, and are seen by many as illegal encroachers, even though they have lived there in limbo for 30 years, not knowing if the airport will actually be built, or how long they can continue to live in the area, or how and where they will be resettled. Denial of land rights is the main reason for residents being marginalised. Lacking access to basic services. Nijgadh is not connected to the electricity grid. Water is of poor quality and fetching it from taps is strenuous. Communities have taken many actions to build infrastructure themselves. Many households use solar panels for energy, and residents have built their own irrigation systems, helping their livelihoods with commercial cultivation of bananas and tobacco. Nijgadh Airport would also pave over an area of farmland, a fertile plain where people have cultivated the land since the 1970s. In May 2019, rolls of fencing wire and construction materials arrived in Nijgadh, thought to be for the airport. Residents had not been informed. In 2020, preparatory works for the airport were underway, and by August 2020, fencing off the airport site had begun. The route of the fast track road passing along the northern boundary of Nijgadh Airport is currently under construction, extends 76 kilometres between Kathmandu and Terai. Road construction is impacting on lands of hundreds of families, as the route slices through farms along with cultural and historical sites. The road is regarded as key to the feasibility of Nijgadh Airport, as it would reduce the travel time to the capital city considerably. The Nepal Army is overseeing construction of the fast track and has established several camps along the route. Protest against the road has met with army and police repression, especially in Kakana, which stands to lose about 60% of its fertile farmland. In this photo from November 2020, Kakana locals are obstructing construction works for the Kathmandu to Terai fast track. This is the site of Istanbul's third airport, shown here in March 2020. The site was about 80% forest and also consisted of wetlands, lakes, farmland, and a stretch of coastline. Located on the migratory route of many bird species, with 400,000 birds flying over the area each spring. Photos of a protest in Istanbul on 7th of June 2014 took place as the groundbreaking ceremony for the airport project was underway. Note the people bedecked in leaves and the stork costume, one of the many species of birds whose habitat would be destroyed. Northern Forests Defence is the movement protecting forests north of the city from the third airport and other mega projects, most importantly a third bridge across the Bosphorus and a canal linking the Black Sea to the Sea of Marmara, all the mega projects being interlinked and feeding each other's growth. Northern Forest Defence published a comprehensive report into the impacts of Istanbul Third Airport in 2015. The cover illustration highlights the large airport site, approximately 76 square kilometres. This is 4 times larger than the world's busiest airport, Atlanta in the US, which handled 110.5 million passengers in 2019, with a site area just a quarter of the size of Istanbul's third airport at 19 square kilometres. It also shows fleets of earth-moving trucks preparing the site for construction works. And here at the north of the site in Yenikoi, 2 before and after photographs comparing August 2014 with March 2015, revealing the destruction of forests and pasture, and nearby on the Black Sea coast, land reclamation was underway. Vast amounts of sand were being dumped in the sea to create new land. And moving forward in time, we can see changes to the coastline. So we can see the changes to the airport moving forward to November 2015. Construction had officially begun in May 2015. 1,300 trucks were conducting excavation works. Each day, about 70,000 cubic meters of soil were being drilled and transported. A photograph from May 2016 shows land reclamation on the coastline, dredging and dumping sand. Land reclamation damages ecosystems at the extraction site and the dump site, and silt spreads in the water and threatens marine life. It can suffocate plant and animal species. Airport construction also damaged inland water systems. About 70 lakes and ponds, both natural and from previous mining activities, were drained and filled in. And levelling and elevating and stabilising the ground, requiring vast volumes of infill, severed the flows of rivers and streams. In May 2017, 1,453 trucks were working on the airport site and formed a 3.2 kilometre parade in an attempt to break the world record for the longest truck procession. In October 2018, as the airport opened, construction workers protested poor workplace safety and living conditions and demanded payment of overdue wages. The labour dispute had begun in mid-September and protests grew rapidly to involve 10,000 workers. The workers' protest was criminalised and 31 workers were jailed. And Istanbul's third airport began operations in April 2019. Moving forward to May 2020, a third parallel runway opened a month later. The changes to the coastline are visible, the reclaimed land area. Deforestation was even worse than had been envisaged. The environmental impact assessment had estimated that 2.5 million trees would be cut for the project. In 2019, Northern Forests Defence reported that over 13 million trees were cut, 8 million for the airport, 1.2 million for quarries where material was extracted from for construction of the airport, and a further 3.7 million trees at least for the highway providing access to the airport. Istanbul's third airport is not just an airport city has been mentioned, including facilities such as hotels, food and beverage areas, hotel and commercial units. Larger scale land reclamation looms for Bulacan Aerotropolis in the Philippines. A graphic rendition of the envisaged airport complex and an airport city complex set to take up a 200,500 hectare site in Manila Bay. The planned initial capacity is 100 million passengers per annum. This is an enormously ambitious passenger projection for a new airport. In 2019, before COVID, only 2 airports exceeded 100 million passengers per annum, the aforementioned Atlanta Airport in the USA and Beijing Capital Airport in China. Yet the long-term plan for Bulacan Airport is even more ambitious, expansion to handle 200 billion passengers per annum. Bulacan Aerotropolis is the biggest infrastructure project in the country's history. The graphic depicts the completed development, even the airport runways and terminals, as predominantly green in colour, suggesting an abundance of plant life, but like all airports, it would be predominantly grey and a vast expanse of concrete. In 2018, 700 families in 7 coastal villages were being displaced for Bulacan Aerotropolis in Taluk-Tip Barangay or administrative district. Fishing was the main source of livelihood for residents, and fishing grounds in surrounding areas, which are vital to the livelihoods of approximately 5,000 fisherfolk and salt makers, are also threatened by the project. The area is crucial for wider Philippines fish production. The Aerotropolis plan was hidden from Taluk-Tip residents until it was approved by the government. I'll overlay a map of the plan for Bulacan Aerotropolis and the associated road network. And I'll align the project map with the base map, digitize the boundaries of the airport, operational areas and road network, and remove the project map to reveal the affected areas. Bulacan is a biodiverse area with 22 types of mangroves. This is a photo of mangroves in Kinsey, one of the 7 sitios or coastal villages in Taluk-Tip. Mangroves 101, produced by the Save Taluk-Tip campaign involving several organisations, is a wonderful visualisation of the ecological importance of mangroves. They're a home and food source for hundreds of species. They sequester carbon, the dense root network stabilise soil, and mangroves act as a buffer, protecting shoreline ecosystems and communities from storm surges and flooding and preventing erosion. Yet in August 2018, 653 mangrove trees at the proposed Aerotropolis site were damaged. The tops were cut off. This is one of the many protests against Bulacan Aerotropolis taking place in October 2019. The photos are by Ang Pamalakaya, a federation of small-scale fisherfolk. And the protest took place in front of the offices of San Miguel Corporation. The conglomerate granted the franchise to construct and operate Bulacan Aerotropolis. and in front of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, DENR. By September 2020, only 7 families remained in Tel Aviv. Local communities facing displacement for the Aerotropolis and activists supporting them had been severely harassed by a military detachment, and residents had been pressured to demolish their homes and vacate the area without fair compensation. An offshore airport, New Sanya Airport, is being constructed in the South China Sea on an artificial island in Hongtang Bay. It's a mega project requiring massive land reclamation. When construction began in 2016, the airport was scheduled to have 4 runways, as shown in this graphic rendition, along with 3 terminals, with the total site covering 26 square kilometres. Aerotropolis-style associated development was also announced, as stated here. In addition to the airport, other supporting facilities will be built on the island, including an aviation economic zone with an airport and seaport operation area, an international CBD, that stands for Central Business District, and an industrial zone in support of the airport. Pre-construction works began in September 2016, and this photo shows an artificial island beginning to take shape. This artificial island is visible in satellite imagery from a month later, in October 2016, showing land reclamation underway. We can see dredgers at work and plumes of silt in the water. And this is a photo of a dredger at work in the area. The airport site is near Sanya Coral Reef National Nature Reserve and a habitat for the protected Chinese white dolphin. Some of these dolphins turn pink as they grow older. They're very rare, listed as vulnerable on the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List of Threatened Species, and nicknamed the Panda of the Sea. Many environmental activists were concerned and complained over potential damage to white dolphin habitats and coral reefs at risk from silt in the water. Moving forward to satellite imagery from September 2018, at this stage there are 4 artificial islands. Land reclamation was fast-paced. Here is a visualization of the project upon completion, with the land reclamation areas consolidated into 2 artificial islands. But construction had been put on hold. Friends of Nature, FON, filed a complaint with the State Oceanic Administration about threats to the environment and work starting without approval. And in November 2017, the State Oceanic Administration ordered suspension of land reclamation for the artificial island due to problems with the Environmental Impact Assessment, or EIA, and confirmed that the EIA had not been approved before construction had started. Thus, construction of the airport was suspended for nearly 2 years, until September 2019, when another environmental impact assessment was approved. In addition, the impact of the project was mitigated by reduction of the land reclamation area to just under 17 square kilometres, which was good for white dolphins and other species. Good news for them. This completes the 2-part video looking at Aerotropolis projects around the world. And as a reminder, do click on the link below to view a complete list of references for all the source material. It's very comprehensive documentation running to about 12 pages. But these videos merely scratch the surface of what is happening with Aerotropolis projects, flagging up the prevalence of this airport-centric, aviation-dependent model of development. The Aerotropolis is a megatrend. There are many more projects at various stages of planning and construction. I'll add about 37 more examples to this most basic map, where there is evidence of or indication of eviction, loss of farmland and fisheries, ecological destruction, either one of or more of these potential problems. And some of these Aerotropolises might be included in a future video. Thank you for watching. Your comments and feedback are very welcome. I'll mention some upcoming videos in this series. Firstly, Airport and Aerotropolis, SEZs, that's Special Economic Zones, which are characterised by tax breaks and other subsidies. There are many similarities with Aerotropolis projects and a degree of overlap in many instances. Next, an Airport and Aerotropolis White Elephant tour. A virtual tour of a multitude of defunct, abandoned, unused, underutilised and mothballed megaprojects, revisiting some projects featured in this video, plus many more, often built at vast public expense. These projects were languishing empty before air traffic plummeted due to COVID, leading to the subject of the next video, aviation expansion in the COVID-19 era. Planning and construction of new airports and expansion of existing airports and airport cities continues during the COVID pandemic. Indeed, many projects have been expedited. At first glance, this is counterintuitive. It seems illogical with air traffic a fraction of pre-COVID levels. But analysis of aviation expansion at this time gives insights into the political and economic drivers of aviation growth and the Aerotropolis phenomenon. Also, air cargo and resource extraction, examining the important role of aviation in fossil fuel projects, mining and logging. I'll end with a reminder to visit the GAM website where you'll find Aerotropolis information built up for over 6 years. For more frequent updates, do follow the Twitter and Facebook accounts and subscribe to this YouTube channel to receive notifications of new videos. Finally, please consider making a donation to support the work. All contributions, either one-off or on a regular basis, are very much appreciated.